All right. Good morning, good evening, good whatever. Wherever you're watching this from, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it on the replay, apologies for a slightly delayed start. We've got a few people here. Cool. This is a slightly unusual one because this morning I'm doing a usual kind of group script writing with my community, who I have on this computer over here. And over on this side, I'm live streaming. So this might be a little bit sketchy because I'm trying to coordinate two things at once. But I was just saying hey to the folks on the call first before going live over here. Now, if you saw my last live, it was a lot of just deep diving into my analytics and that kind of thing. Whereas today is literally, as you might guess from the title, actually, I have no idea if my mic is even the right one. If this, hopefully this sounds good. Let me know if it does. Yeah, this is just a co-working session, which is what we do every week in my community. We just sit together and write for 2 hours and check in at the end and see what everybody got on. So that's been the unlock for me in terms of finally getting my YouTube channel off the ground. And, hence the reason I'm even sat here at all right now. These sessions have been invaluable for that. And so they're now like a fixed part of my calendar every week. So we're just going to crack on and have a little write. What we'll probably do on the turn of the hour is just stop when I get a cup of tea normally. And then carry on again till the end of the hour. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Best of luck if you are here writing live, or if you're watching this afterwards, feel free to just use this as a little accountability thing for a couple of hours to get some writing done. So in a move that I am still debating even to this moment, I'm going to screen share the script as I'm writing it, because why not? What I do in my communities, I screen record what I'm doing anyway, which I don't mind so much because it's like no one's watching me actually live. They only see the replay afterwards. But yeah, in this occasion, I'm just going to screen share the whole thing as I do it. So let's get into it. I might kind of narrate what I'm doing to some degree, but there are going to be periods where I'm also just writing in silence because you get better results that way from what I found. So yeah, let's get into it. Very best of luck if you are here writing. And I will speak to you variously throughout this. So I'm going to unmute myself for just a moment. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for jumping in. Got a few people in the chat. Great to see you. I'm going to narrate like bits of this because I think it could be interesting to just get a better idea of my approach to this stuff. So what I'm aiming to do with all of these is to try and have written the script within this 2-hour period. Normally it ends up taking me 90 minutes or slightly less. But the reason that's possible is because basically every YouTube script that I'm writing, I want to have thought about the ideas I'm talking about before in some context. And in this case, as you can see, I hope on the screen here, let me know if that is showing. Yeah, I can see the split screen. That's good. These are my newsletters, basically. Every script that I've made so far is just a converted newsletter that I've written elsewhere. Getting this done in under 2 hours is quite tricky, I think, if you're having to ruminate on the ideas for the first time. But the key here for me is that, like I say, I want to have thought about the ideas I'm putting into my script already. I don't want to be brainstorming from scratch. So my advice there is if you have got any kind of material that you've written, whether it's even just stuff on Twitter, whether it's a blog, a newsletter, or anything else, ideas from a podcast, even things that you've discussed or things that you've heard on a podcast, taking the ideas that you've already spent time ruminating on is a much more efficient way of getting a script written. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. What I tend to do just up front is create enough space for approximately 5 segments. That's normally what it ends up taking. Let's see, just pop those in there. And now this is something that I've spoken about variously. And if you've seen any of my videos on this, you'll kind of recognize this kind of table format. But what I like to do is throw in all the payoffs first, even before thinking about the hook. This is just a way that I find it easier to just get a sense of the video's skeleton before I then start fleshing it out. And that's just the way that I do it. So I'll go payoffs first, and then you'll see me throwing in the setups. Somewhere in among that time, I might then start thinking about the hook. It depends when that occurs to me, if it does naturally. And then the last thing usually will be then filling out the tension segments in between. Appreciate if you've not heard any of this terminology before, that might mean very, very little, but hopefully you'll get a sense of it from seeing what I do. Or if not, you can just go watch some of my videos and it kind of explains that stuff. So I'm going to mute myself again for a minute. Now I've explained what you're likely to see. And I will just speak to you in a little bit. And if you're here just to write, then good luck. Hello. So I thought I'd jump in for just a second to read through the chat and just answer a couple of bits. I think really what you were just saying at the end, 90 seconds crypto. Yes, that is broadly how I think of detention. It is largely the meat of the argument. Like I want to go back through this. Like right now, this feels a little bit long, and my instinct is that this may need to break into two segments. Although, yeah, I can't be sure yet. Like I like to take a minute away from it before doing the full reread. But yeah, pretty much all I'm trying to do is just reveal this argument gradually without saying too much too soon. That's how I would think of detention. It's always a tricky thing. One thing in the video that I released last week is I talk about a way of kind of introducing the tension, like maybe the first third is to spend time talking about the wrong way that your viewer might be approaching whatever it is that you're talking about, which of course forms part of the meat of the argument. But that's a nice way of kind of, I suppose, getting your viewer on side more and increasing your watch time in the process, and increasing the video's duration by spending time existing in the place where your viewer is currently and showing them why their current approach is bad, which I in this segment haven't really done. This is more just all the meat of the argument. Have I done it in this one at all? Let's see. Yeah, I haven't done that in this one. It's just another option that you can. Yeah, let's see. In this case, the tension segment, I want to add a little bit more here, but it's pretty much, this one is all the problem bit. It's like, again, just gradually layering out the reasons why what the viewer might currently be doing is bad. And in this case, I'm trying to start that with an example. So the example is like throwing them right in. It gives them a chance to see their own behavior, potentially reflect on their own behavior, but without me saying anything at all to explain why what they're doing is wrong. It kind of gives them a chance to try and figure that out without me telling them. So that's kind of, in this case, that this full tension for segment one exists as a like holding up the mirror kind of thing. And then, yeah, I think the meat of the argument comes out in segments 2 and 3. But tension is a bit tricky. It is a little bit of a weird one, which might come out slightly differently each time, depending on what you're doing. It might well be that the tension segment you start off with, again, like an anecdote where we're not making it completely obvious why that anecdote is relevant to the viewer just yet, but giving them the chance to figure it out themselves. So yeah, it can kind of look like anything. I also wanted to come back on the mic just to say what I'm doing now. So like what I've realized when writing this is I'm kind of intrigued by this whole thing that I spoke about. So like a lot of the stuff I talk about is just based on looking at retention graphs, looking at scripts that people have written and trying to find the patterns between them. And in this video that I'm writing here, it's this like idea of putting multiple curiosity gaps inside themselves, only to then get to like one payoff at the end, and how going multiple layers deep on curiosity can be very bad for the viewer's comprehension, because they kind of forget what like the earlier curiosity gaps are before you resolve them. And it kind of feels like taking a step back, a step back, a step back before we can take a step forward. Whereas what we want to be doing is like taking a step back and then making progress, taking a step back, making progress. But what I've done with a couple of these scripts, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm always curious about the psychological reasons behind what I see in the retention graphs, and I suppose just like on my hypotheses about these different things. So I'm right now trying to figure out the best way to ask Perplexity, like based on this. In fact, what I sometimes do is just copy the whole article. Let's just copy the whole article and basically ask it whether or not there are any scientific papers or studies or anything like that that might explain the talking about. So I'm gonna do that right now, and let's just see what it comes up with. Okay, I'm writing, or I wrote this article. Well, Perplexity, if you haven't used it, is I mean, meaningfully very similar to ChatGPT and Claude, but it's much more research based and it's much, much better at citing its sources. So where ChatGPT in particular has a tendency to hallucinate, Perplexity has to cite everything that it gets, which I'll show you in just a moment. So generally speaking, it's if you're looking for something specific or a specific article or whatever, a specific piece of information, it will give you a ChatGPT like response, but every line basically will be cited. And I want to know or studies which hmm. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Yes. So here we go. Like already, yeah. If it's possible, I like to try and throw in some reference to something like this. So the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks I remember better than completed tasks. Okay, well that's kind of just the idea of a curiosity gap. Here we go. Okay. Oh man, this is perfect. Storytellers have applied this to cliffhangers and open loops, but authors also warn that too many simultaneous open loops create tension fatigue. That's like a quote that was made for this script. Yes. Oh my goodness, this is perfect. Working memory load, discourse structure. And so what you can see after all of these, first of all, like you'll get the full list of sources that it's drawing on. But then specifically with the points that it brings out here, you can then see where it's citing these things from. Okay, yeah, let's just have a read of this and see. It also helps. You have to like check what the sources are, of course. Like for me, this feels a little bit. What is this website? Upskill. Okay, so this is just someone's personal blog, like not a thing, but I'd kind of like a bit more of a paper or something. Psychological study. Okay. Oh, this is just a general page of psychological studies. Great. Here we go. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I think it's the idea of tension fatigue that I want to get a bit more information on. Let's have a look at this one. Tension disruption, I think. Tension fatigue. Okay, there's not a standard technical term. This is so interesting. Explicitly raises the idea that cliffhanger-heavy serial formats can, over time, frustrate audiences and make them unable to live with the suspense. Ongoing unresolved tension can backfire. Okay, could be something in that. National Library of Medicine, official website of the United States government. Okay, interesting. Unable to. There it is. Children may be so interested in uncertainty reduction or frustrated by the continued uncertainty that they become unable to live with suspense and lose interest after a few episodes before the whole show ends. Okay. This is specifically about children as opposed to adults, so maybe it's a little bit less applicable. It may well be the case that it's concrete enough that I can throw into this. It's just something I would love to do if I could. So this is what I want to do in this case here. Like, I want to know specifically. Yeah, so I got it from this blog post again. Yeah, so this is the problem. I feel like he's kind of just doing what I'm doing, where he's talking about this thing, but without citing a specific source. I would love to know where he got this idea. Yeah, it may well be the case. I was hoping I might be able to add another segment about this idea. But right now I'm thinking it may not be possible. I'm going to have one last look here. Okay. See, this is an interesting quote. Carrying many open, unfinished tasks in parallel can lead to a fragmented attentional state because each open task runs in the background. Oh, that's Corey Wilkes. Interesting. Okay. I'm just going to check the source for this specific bit. And then what I'm going to do in a minute or so is take a little midway break. I think we made some fairly good progress, to be honest. Like, I don't think I'm going to need these extra segments. I think it's going to be a 3-segment video. I'm going to need to flesh out the hook and more to this, but otherwise, and maybe check some like any visual directions that I need to give my editor in the second half. But I think that will do it, unless we can get in an extra segment with, or you know, even just an extra couple of lines about this whole thing. Microsoft says. Yeah, in this case, I don't think it's gonna pan out. Like I said, we could have thrown in the quote from that guy on his blog, but like he's not citing any source for it. Like I said, he's kind of just doing what I'm doing, where he's just observing this thing himself without there being any kind of paper to back it up. So in this case, I'm gonna have to go without. I do like to throw in a bit of the, you know, a fancy sounding psychological phenomenon if I can, but in this case, I don't think I can. So we'll have to leave it in this case. Right. Oh, blimey, the chat is kicking off. Becky's here. Nice to see you. Milka editing. Thanks for jumping in. Robin Stern, nice to see you. I'll quickly do a couple of questions. I'm really rinsing the time in which I told myself I would write, but it's I just appreciate you being here in the chat. So let's have a look. Yes, I do use Notebook LM, uh, but largely that's for ideation. Like I take transcripts of my consulting calls, office hours that I do with my students in the community. Shout out to the link in the description, by the way. Uh, get in ahead of the price rise on Monday. And that's where I basically drag all of those transcripts in and then just say, like, look, based on these last 20 calls that I've done, what are some of the biggest insights that I could write in my newsletter? That kind of thing. So yes, I do use Notebook LM for that, but not really a great deal more. Um, but there's probably a lot more that I should do. Like I haven't experimented with the, turn it into a podcast format. Well, I have like once just to see if it works, which it does, and it's quite cool. But I've not really used it formally in my workflow. Can you imagine if we had this in our early days of Ali? My God, yes. I mean, that would have been very useful. Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah. Okay. Quotables from scientific research on papers, perfect house for AI. Yeah, exactly. It's great for that. Someone tell Netflix about that cliffhanger quote. Yeah, agreed. And I'm glad the co-writing format is working. I hope you've made a bit of progress as well. How aggro are you with giving visual cues to your editor? Do you give them creative reins? So I'm deliberately going as minimalist as possible with my stuff. It's even right now, there's like a little bit more animation even than I would like to. I would actually probably like to reduce it over time, just for the sake of keeping it efficient, just because various reasons that I won't go into now because I appreciate we've only got another hour left. But we have a fairly set system by now. There are very repeated things that we use in each of our scripts. So like you can see, like here, I said, please use the S1 setup, S1 tension, S1 payoff graphic we used before. Thanks. So like certain graphics, especially because I'm always talking about scripts and script examples. We have by now kind of a set script graphic that we use to display the examples that I'm talking about. So I can kind of go a bit lighter on detail these days, but initially there was a bit more upfront, like, hey, here are all the times that I want to use text in these 3 ways only and in no other ways. Like visual effects that I do like, visual effects that I don't like. That took a bit of hammering out on the first couple of edits with the editor that I have currently. But now it's like nothing really changes between videos and it's always the same kind of stuff. So yeah, all good. Not very much needed for me. And the best editors that I've worked with, even in scenarios where that's not true, where you do have different stuff in each video, the very best editors it's great when you can give them creative freedom and they just kind of take it and do what they want to do. I always prefer that way of working. I'll try and guide them if I have a visual idea, like if I've written something in a particular way that relies on a particular visual, then then I'll explain it. But if I can get away with not saying as much and just letting them take the reins, then I do prefer to do that if I can. All right. Well, I mean, this is a bit atypical, but to keep this as in keeping with the format of the actual group script writing call that I'm on with my community on this screen over here, I'm going to do a sort of 2 or 3 minute tea break now and just recharge and go for a wee. So I encourage you to do the same if you require those things. So can I turn my screen off? I don't really know what I'm doing. Well, I'm sharing for a sec. Right. I'm going to go make that tea and I will see you in a couple of minutes. Hello, hello. Right, we are back. I'm gonna just jump straight back into the second half, um, just because I make this mistake a lot where it kind of looks like, hey, this is like 90% done, ignoring this stuff which we're gonna get rid of. But then it's the last little tweaks can always take a bit longer, and we haven't even touched the hook yet, so there might be a bit of work to do there. So I'm gonna jump back in and wish you the best of luck for whatever it is that you're doing at the moment. Hello, Bex. Welcome, welcome back. And yes, I did. I realized I lost my mic as I was talking and sort of gesticulating wildly behind me. What I was saying was, if you can guess what these albums are, if you're not a Brit, then I'll be very impressed. Anyway, right. Best of luck. I'm going to jump back in for another 45 minutes or so, and I'll see you at the end. Hello, everyone. I'm jumping back in. Tintin, good to see you as well. Yeah, it might just be me that's writing, although I've also been very distractible. I'm curious. I'm actually going to use this rare opportunity that I have to be writing with people that I can um, actually ask. Because when I'm doing this with my community, I don't like to talk to them too much and distract them from whatever they're doing. But I'm now realizing there's like an extra point that I'm thinking of making, and I'm just curious whether or not you think this would be interesting or not. And please say if this would bore you, because I would much rather know. Um, the thing I want to talk about here, like the issue with there's Jamie again. um, this way of doing things, as I'm kind of talking about, if you've been at all following the script or if you've read this while it's been on screen, or you're familiar with the idea anyway, is the idea that throwing in basically like a setup and then another setup and then another setup before we've resolved anything, is that it makes it hard to figure out for the viewer which setup they should focus on. It makes it harder to then follow the flow of the script. The point I'm going to make, and what I've seen in the retention graphs, is that this is quite hard to detect from the retention graph sometimes, because it's not like people necessarily lose interest when this is happening. It actually happens like way afterwards in some cases, or not way afterwards, but like as the segment progresses, because the lack of clarity at the outset, the fact that we've thrown in multiple setups, multiple curiosity gaps, then makes it unclear as the segment progresses what they should be focusing on. Um, and I think that's an interesting point in its own right. Like, this is often a thing that comes up with retention, is that diagnosing the graph can be difficult because sometimes the dip will happen because of something that happened a few minutes earlier. But I don't know if it fits in this. So I guess my overall question, I will come back to the chat in a second. Oh, thank you. I realize I'm not actually sharing my screen anymore. Well, hopefully from pure context, that will have made sense. But in any case, thank you. This diagram, here are the three setups. They confuse the viewer to some degree, but my point is they won't necessarily leave here. They might well keep watching for a little bit, but because of the slightly confused multiple setup, multiple curiosity gap thing, the retention will only dip later on as they realize, actually, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be focusing on in this segment. My question is that an interesting enough aside for this video, or do you think that would distract from the momentum? So I'm at the point here now in the script at the end of the second segment where I've explained why this is bad. Segment is telling you how to fix it, but is it worth, I think I'm almost answering my own question as I say this out loud, doing another setup in the middle? I just received a text from someone present, which has thrown me off slightly. Um, is it worth distracting from getting straight into the fix, to talk about this whole retention thing of like, and hey, like, this is bad, and it's especially bad because it's hard to detect, because if you do this in your retention graph, it won't necessarily show up in the moment. It will be maybe a negative effect on retention that comes up a bit later. Does that sound like an interesting thing to throw in, or not? Is my question. But if you don't have a strong enough opinion on it, that is not a problem. I think for now I'm probably gonna not do it because it feels like I'd want to just get to the fix. Yeah, there we go. We've got the whole of Ali Abdal Limited in the chat this morning. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Right. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself again and crack on with writing. Good luck if anyone else is going to be writing. Okay, I'm back in the room for one little bit, which I think might be interesting to talk through as I'm doing it. So one thing, in fact, the two places that I end up tending to use AI, I tend to avoid it for the most part. Not because I don't like it, but just because I just prefer to write a lot of the time. But one thing that does come up a lot is, well, there are two things. First of all, setups. They can become a little bit repetitive in my eyes. Like sometimes I struggle to find a way to introduce a topic without the stakes constantly being, because if you don't do this, your retention is going to be bad. So that's when I'll jump into Steak Bake, which is free, and any of you can use it. Some of you may have already used it. I don't know. And I basically just feed it the whole script. Oops, excuse me. I'm just gonna do the rest of the stream like this. No. And I'll throw out the script and I'll say, look, I want to make the setups more interesting, or I want to change up the stakes that I reference. Like, please identify the stakes for this video and blah, blah, blah. And it'll give you a bunch of options for stakes, or at least ways of thinking about the stakes that are a little bit different. And I will use that quite regularly to change my setups. In this case, we've only got 3 setups in total. And I think it's fine. But that's just one thing. But the thing I am going to use right now, because I tend to use this time, is my CTA writer. This I'm currently going through this process where I am linking back to the previous video I uploaded every single time. I think there will come a point where that method is maybe not the best, but at time of recording, that's still what I'm doing. So you can see I got 4 videos currently being edited. I think, what was the last one that I wrote? Shoot. Yeah, first of all, I need to remember what the last one was that I wrote. But I'm thinking of the video here that I'm going to be linking back to. So I don't think it was that. These are things before you're writing a script. Yes, I think it was this one. When did I make this? Let me just check the version history. Yeah, this was last week. Okay, this is the one I wrote in the this session this time last week, pretty much. So with the CTA writer, CTAs I don't find are particularly creative, the end screen CTA, but they are very effective and they are very important. So this is something that I really don't mind outsourcing to AI, because it's a very by the numbers, methodical kind of approach that just works pretty much every time. So what it's going to ask for is the script that you're working on, which is the one that you've seen me writing. I'm going to throw that in. Then it's going to ask for the transcript of the video that we're linking to. In my case, because I've got a bunch of videos, I'm like editing faster than I'm recording and editing right now. It's going to be just the script that I'm going to copy for the video that will have gone up one before this one. So I'm going to copy that, throw that in. Oh, I mean, once ChatGPT decides it's done. Hello, there we go. I'm still using GPT-4 for this. I haven't tested the tools that I've made again with 5.1 since that's come out, so I don't know if that will be better. But initially, GPT-5 was worse than GPT-4 for the stuff that I needed it for. So in theory, even though we're quite internet intensive right now, it's going to write us a pretty... Oh, interesting. Okay, so here's the thing that it sometimes does. It's latched on to the call to action at the end of this script, and it's thinking that that is the content of the script that I want. So I'm going to copy the whole script again, but without the end screen call to action. You got confused. No, we won't say that. You got confused. Please, the transcript of the video we're linking to again. Okay, so hopefully this time it will... this is a very weird peculiarity of this CTA writer, is that for some reason, even though I've given it the entire script to link back to, it focuses just this bit, which is a bit of a pain. So let's see now. Yeah, okay, so this gives me something. I actually preferred this before. Yeah, so I'm going to steal this bit. And then we're going to take this bit as inspiration and then make some edits to it. Okay, cool. I'm going to mute myself and carry on as we're coming towards the top of the hour. All right. All right. I think I'm to call it a day there in terms of writing. In fact, let me share my screen again, just in case anyone fancies um, the look. But I think we are good. I think we are there. I think this video is probably going to be relatively short. Let's just have a quick look. I mean, I'm just my aim right now is just consistency, and they're probably bulk this out. But for me, the goal is just, can I write a script every single time I sit down in one of these sessions? And currently, it is working. So I'm going to stick with it. Last script was 49. Yeah, so there's a little on the short side. It's going to be a little bit of riffing. We've also got a few segments. Like we're reading out a lot of stuff, kind of script extracts and things like that. So I think that may bulk it a little bit, but I'd imagine this video might be like 7 minutes tops. Fine by me. So I think I'm gonna call it there for now. I'm gonna share my screen so you don't all go blind. Tommy's here as well. Good to see you, Tommy. I hope you had a wonderful birthday the other day, and wherever you are in the world, you're doing super well. This really is a reunion of the Ali Abdaal crew. But yeah, thank you all for dropping in. Good luck with your next script, whenever that may be. Final thing to say before I'm going to jump back into the community call over here, and we'll have a chat separately after this. Is that if you do fancy joining the community to jump into these sessions that we do every single week, feel free. There is a little time limit on a price increase that's happening on Monday, 1st of December. So if this is something you fancy jumping into and locking in your price at the old price before it disappears, feel free. This is just one of the many types of calls that we do in there. But it's been useful for me from a consistency perspective and actually making content for the first time. And our members seem to like it as well. This is a bit of an atypical one. We usually US centric with the calls, but we also do UK, Australia centric ones as well. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to check out the link below. Robin Stern, thanks for coming, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone. Any questions, just drop me an email and I will see you soon. Cheers.